everybody, and welcome into the Casual Sports Podcast, day 2 of our high school football playoff extravaganza here on your sports network. Just me on the show today. We're going to be breaking down 17 games today, so it's going to be a good one. We got playoff action on the network tonight. The Power Hour Super Show coming up next. You got a full night worth of content after Running Point just went 2 hours. Shout out to them. Nice broadcast in front of us. But I'm taking us in here. It's postseason time, and we got some postseason weather tonight. It's actually gone down in temperature since we were talking about it yesterday. They're now looking at 50-degree weather for kickoff, and it's also going to finish out around 45. So, I mean, you're talking about 40-degree football. This is playoff weather if you've ever seen it. We're going to have a ton of games on the network tonight. Every game but Wyndham and Danville, Garfield, Conneaut, Lakeside, and Riverside, and Cardinal Mooney and Edison are going to be on the network tonight, or at least that's what I have in front of me at the moment. There's a chance couple of those get changed and make their way onto the network tonight. But either way, I mean, we got a lot of games. Audible Call is going to be talking about it all, and you can get them all for just one price here on the network tonight. All streams are starting 10 minutes early, so make sure you're tuning in before you get all the ads out of the way. You get right into football. No matter where you're going to be tonight, it's going to be a great day. So let's start this show off. Didn't get through the full 14 slate yesterday, so we got 2 games that carried over today. First one of those comes in Jackson Milton at 7-3, taking on Dalton on the road at 8-2. And this is a game I've kind of been torn about. And I've been torn about it because I've been torn about Jackson Milton all season. I think I've made my reserves pretty clear ever since their matchup against Lowellville that I called them. And what was the game of the week? It was going into week 5. Both teams came in undefeated. And I was told that this thing was supposed to be great, supposed to be close. Lowellville obviously has a historic night, and Jackson Milton didn't really live up to the hype they were billed as. And I think ever since that game, part of that's kept in my mind. But the other part of it is they don't have the ability to beat teams that are on their level or above their level. I think we've seen that a lot this season. When you look through their schedule, yeah, good wins across the board. I mean, scoring margins are huge, especially 54-0 over Leetonia, 41-0 over Sebring, 34-0 over LeBray. I mean, that's 3 shutouts. That is hard to get for any team. But then you look at the hard games in Springfield, Ridge, and Lowellville, and it's not even close. They were outscored 140 to 34. I mean, there's a huge gap when they have played teams that are actually good on their schedule. And that's what worries me the most coming in, especially with this game being on the road. All 3 of those big games that they lost in were at home. So they're undefeated when they've gone on the road. But again, you look at the road teams, Leetonia, Western Reserve, Waterloo, McDonald. It's not a hefty slate that I think anybody goes in saying, Jackson Milton, it's going to be a hard environment for them to go. They are good enough to beat teams less than them, but we haven't seen them beat teams better than them this season. And I look across on this matchup, and I see this team in Dalton that was ranked top 10 inside of Division 6 for Max Preps coming into it, obviously getting a nice ranking here in the postseason as well. And they're looking for their opportunity to make some kind of run out of this year as well. And they're a very talented team. Might be taking on Brookfield next round. Jackson Milton could do it, but this is a 4v13 matchup. Clearly, the playoff points have also gone into factor. Jackson Milton's lack of a strength of schedule this year, it ranks at -21. Compared to the Dalton, they're only at -3.1, so there's a big gap between the two teams. We know Jackson Milton has the talented players that can get this kind of game done. The question is not the talent of this team and whether or not talent-wise they could win this game, because I think talent-wise, this Jackson Milton school team, has enough talent to go around and win this kind of football game and make a nice run. It's just the fact that that talent hasn't showed up for the big games. If that talent shows out on the big stage like this here in the playoffs and you can pull a massive upset, give yourself a shot against Brookfield next week, I mean, go for it. but I haven't seen anything out of Jackson Milton this season. In those 3 losses, I mean, 140 to 30. I mean, there's 110-point differential in the 3 games they have against winning teams. It's not a group I'm overly confident in. So for that reason, I'm taking the higher seed. I'm taking Dalton. They've had a really good year. Their strength of schedule is better, and they have a better record out of it. I mean, the 2 losses are to good teams, and I don't see Jackson Milton taking 10 weeks to finally play their best kind of football. It's just, it hasn't gelled together this year. And if this is the point, congratulations. Good job. Go for the crown. If this is the point everything starts gelling, good for you. Go win state championship. But I haven't seen an indicator to point me in that direction yet. Next one up, Wyndham, 4-5. I mean, talk about just scraping into the postseason. I mean, they just got here. So, I mean, they came in with a strength of schedule of negative 33.1. They're ranked 69th in Division 7. I've liked them. I thought they've gone on a nice run here at the end of the season. They get the win over North Baltimore. They beat Fairport Harding. But you look at the good teams on their schedule, again, like we were pointing out with Milton, Matthews, PV really isn't that great. PV won 60-12, and PV is a 4-6 team. And, early in the year, I mean, losses to Lisbon, losses to Rittman, Southeast, all their losses have been bad. All their wins have been huge. They haven't played in a close game, and that always is something you look at in the postseason, because at some point you do expect games to come down to one play, and we don't know what they are going to be in one-play games. The team on the other side they're taking on is Danville, who is the higher seed. They come in at 8-2 out of Danville, Ohio. Really great defense with this team. That's the one focal point you're going to have to focus in on. Well, Wyndham has scored 255 points. They've allowed 295. You look over with this Danville, well, they've scored 254, so about on par offense-wise between these two teams. Their defense has allowed just 131 points over the 10 games they've played on the season, and 1 game less. Wyndham has allowed 295. So, I mean, the huge differential of 160. The differential between defenses is more points than Danville's allowed this season. It's really a phenomenal stat when you look at it that way. And, they have some really good players on this team. In their best defensive end, Ryan Lucas is top 25 in the state right now in sacks. And that just goes to kind of push along that this is a really good defense. And obviously you look at this matchup, it's one I think we all want to see Wyndham take out and Wyndham pull out this win. I know I certainly do. I've liked them this season. I don't want the run to end just yet. I think if they can win here, they'd have a chance against Hillsdale or Connaughton Valley next week. And I mean, before no time, you're in a regional semifinal going up against Lowellville, and then you can kiss your season goodbye. I like them potentially for an upset here if they play well. But again, it's the same thing as Jackson Milton. When you haven't showed up for the big game, I'm not relying on you to do so in the postseason. This Danville squad has been there all year long. They've beat East Knox 42-21. They beat Mount Gilead, beat Cardington Lincoln and Loudonville, Fredericton, Bucyrus. I mean, they've gone all over the state picking opponents. It's very much a Division 7 schedule like Warren JFK. They have positioned themselves to make a strong run going into the postseason. While their strength of schedule is only at negative 8.8, and that's obviously not where they wanted it. You can see with the schedule they designed, it was designed to be a little bit more challenging for them, and they weather the storm. I like Danville to come out on top here over the Bombers. Unfortunately, team I've liked so much this year goes down. Next game, it's going to be a huge one. I mean, this is a absolutely monumental game. Alliance and Cheney. Alliance comes in 8-2. You've heard about them all season long. They've taken on local teams like West Branch and Salem and Niles. So, I mean, we've seen them a lot here on the network. Conversations have definitely been talked about this team. They went just in a 7-point game against West Branch, and their only other loss came to Uniontown Lake at the beginning of the season. That Lake team is now 9-1, and they have, I believe, a 1 or 2 spot in the postseason locked up. Yeah, they're the 2 seed going up against Dublin Skiato tonight. So, I mean, it's a very good team that Lake, and to have Alliance have their only losses to 9-1 Lake. There's a 2 seed and then a 1 seeded West Branch. You have one heck of a resume going on for this Alliance crew, and that's not to discount what Cheney does. I just saw them a week ago shut out their rivals in East. Obviously, it's not a massive victory. It's East, but it was their second shutout in 3 weeks. They beat Harding 21-14, normally a great school. They've played everybody close this season outside of their Week 10 game. And then the only loss for Cheney was Ursuline. Again, you look at it and go, all right, well, there's a top 4 seed team as well in this Division III bracket. And they have a win over Canfield, which obviously everyone looks at that win and goes, that's the premier win for this program, one that they've desperately been looking for, I think, for a long time, as they've rebuilt this program in just rapid fashion. I mean, doing my research last week for this game, it seems so improbable that a team can go from not having a program to having one, and now you're competing at a state level in under 10 years. I mean, they've done it much faster than that. I mean, I think it's been, 5 years or less? So the fact that they've done it in under that amount of time is impeccable. Goes to show you that the talent of this school, the willingness of these players to learn, and the willingness of these coaches to coach them. And, it's been a great season for them. If it comes to a close tonight, I know a lot of people are going to be disappointed. I am not one of them. If this is the end of the road, if the Lions can pull this kind of upset over them, it's not a game I look back on and be like, I'm disappointed with that performance, because I think Alliance is one heck of a team. I think that they are really, really good. I mean, having wins over Canton Central Catholic, Carrollton, and Salem, all in a 3-game stretch, that's very impressive. And it finally caught up when they went to take West Branch in their 4th big game consecutively. I mean, this is a group that has beat Bedford. They were in the game against Lake. They've looked really dominant all season long. So this isn't a performance, no matter which way it goes. I personally have Cheney winning this game. I think they can. I think they have talent. I saw it in action last week. I mean, they were physically, mentally, emotionally dominant in that game over East. I mean, every factor was in their corner, and they showed out. The one problem I have seen, and I think the last couple clips I've watched, Cheney is turnover prone. And going into the postseason, weather's getting much colder than it has been. Being turnover prone can hurt, especially in games like this. It's not a game they're going to be able to afford a turnover, because Alliance is really good. I mean, 418 points scored on the offense. The one thing Cheney has, just 114 points defensively, which is half of what Alliance has allowed this season. So I like Cheney. But again, if it comes all coming down tonight and they finish the season 9-2, nobody should be disappointed in that performance. With how quick of a turnaround this school has had to have a 9-1 season, albeit cut short. I mean, that would be one heck of an accomplishment. And I know that obviously they're not going for participation awards here. They want the whole thing, and surely they do have the talent for it. But just keep in mind, this is a young squad, and they can only get better, and this school can only get more and more productive. So we'll see how that goes as it continues to move along. But I got Cheney. I think those Cowboys are something special over there. I want to see them make this run, and I think we all know they have the talent to do so. And potentially match up against the University School Preppers next. I like Cheney there. Likelihood is they would take on Chardon in a regional semifinal. Then a regional championship game could feature a rematch between them and either Ursuline, Canfield, or CVCA. We'll see how they run there, if they can get a run, potentially Talmadge as well. It was a very competitive bracket. I don't think anybody could tell you who's coming out of it. But at the moment, I like Cheney to take this round 1 game over Alliance. I think it's going to be very close, though. I don't see them pulling away. They haven't really pulled away in any big games, so I don't see it starting here. Whew. Next one up for me here, Edgewood at 6-4, taking on Struthers at 6-4. And I think I only have one phrase for this: trust the climb. This is the longest winning streak for this Struthers team in years. 2019, they won 4 straight. Right now, they're on 5 in a row. I mean, this is one heck of a streak that they've got going on. And I'm trying to see if they have this up here anywhere. It doesn't look like it, but coming into this, they've never lost against Edgewood. They played them in 15, 16, 17, and 18, 4 straight years in late October, and they won. And it was the closest it was a 23-point outing in 2016 that Struthers won 30-7. I love the Cats going into this game. Trust the climb has been a motto for this group, and man, has it worked wonders. I mean, you really even go back and you look at the Hubbard loss at this point in overtime, mind you. And I think your entire perspective on Struthers has changed. They are a monster. They are climbing up. They're not climbing. They are shooting up poll rankings. Max Preps in the state of Ohio had them gain 52 spots after their Week 10 victory over Poland 35-7. This is a team that has just hordes of momentum behind them. And I think I look over here at Edgewood and they've played an absolute gauntlet of a schedule. And pardon me. And you cannot deny it. I mean, Conneaut, playoff team. Jefferson, playoff team. West Geauga is not good. But then you follow that with Perry, playoff team. Geneva, playoff team. Chagrin Falls, they just missed. I think they finished 17th. Kirtland, playoff team. Lakeside, playoff team. And now here they are in the playoffs themselves, somehow coming out of that with a winning record. So to have those kind of numbers fall into place where they did, this is obviously a very talented choking on my own spit here, a very talented Edgewood crew, but I do have concerns about their defense. It's what has cost them in those biggest of games. Their defense can't hold up for 4 quarters, and I think it's going to come back to bite him here, because if any team is going to fight you for 4 quarters, it's going to be Struthers. I like the Cats here, and I like the Cats to maybe make a run. I mean, I don't know if that's a bold comment to make here, but I really do think that this Struthers group can get something going. I think they have some momentum right now going alongside them. And anytime you have momentum, especially at this point in the season, I mean, anything is possible. They're playing like a whole different team. I really do believe you should throw that 6-4 record out the window when you look over here at Struthers. They are a completely different team. 5 straight wins after a 1-4 start. This has been one heck of a turnaround. They win here. You have to take on West Branch. That'll be something for sure. I don't know what they'll be able to do. I'll probably be taking West Branch because they've been near unstoppable. But I like the Cats to at least take round 1. I'm going to take a quick step aside, see if I can stop choking here. When we come back, we got some big names on the docket: United, Springfield, The Ridge, Mooney, a whole lot more, including my Brookfield Warriors. So we'll get all back to that in just a second here. Got an advertisement coming back, but I'll be right back on the Casual Sports Podcast.
I support police funding, securing our borders, and parental rights in education. I'm attorney Mark Hanai, the only Republican running for the 7th District Court of Appeals. I will always follow the law.
Paid for by the committee to elect Mark Hanai judge. Dave Johnson, chairman.
Fall is in the air. The kids are back to school, crowds are cheering for the home team, and Myers Family Insurance is prepped for another crazy Medicare season. Every year there's changes, some big, some small, so it's important to have a conversation to make sure your plan is going to meet your expectations for the coming year. Give our team a call today to schedule your annual review.
For all your Medicare needs, call Myers Family Insurance or visit us on the web. Check us out online at myersfamilyins.com.
Locally owned and operated, Sheely's relaxed shopping experience means browsing and lounging is always encouraged.
Find Flex Deal and more at Sheely's Furniture and Appliance, because the best things in life happen at home.
I'm Mark Hanai, a conservative Republican. I believe in family values, the Second Amendment, and our Constitution. Vote for the only Republican running for the 7th District Court of Appeals. Protect your rights. Vote Hanai for judge.
Welcome back to the Casual Sports Podcast, day 2 of our high school football extravaganza. Up next here on the docket for us, the Brookfield Warriors at 9-1 take on the Lakers of Andover, Pymatuning Valley. This is gearing up for what should be a really good game. I mean, PV, yeah, they struggled early on in the year. They couldn't buy a win. I mean, they got demolished by the Ridge, by Cardinal Middlefield, who just made it into the postseason, by an albeit bad Grand Valley, who finished 2-8. They got dominated by Rootstown, but then they really turned it around for this back half of the season. They got some easy games that they were able to get some momentum flowing back. They shut out St. John. They won by 20-plus points against Fairport Harbor. They put 60 over Wyndham. And they took on Conneaut, again, a playoff team. They lose. They took on Toronto, a good playoff team. They lose. But in Week 10, when all the cards were down and they needed it most, they did something that only one other team had done all season long, and that was beat Matthews, that Mustang crew who has been phenomenal this season. They met him. They beat him. They knocked Matthews down a peg, too. So now Matthews has Springfield in the first round, and we're going to talk that in a little bit. I might like him not to make it very far after that. But, you look at PV, they have a lot of momentum going here at the end of the season, but that pales in comparison to the momentum that the Brookfield Warriors have behind them. When you look at this squad in Brookfield, I know they didn't get the 4 seed that they really wanted. They end up at 5, and if you think that's not weighing on them in the back of your minds, you are wrong. This is a Warriors team that has been perfect since their game against Ursuline, in which they dropped it beginning of the year. Can't erase it, 52-14. But they needed that game to be as dominant as they are here. They have played the way they should have played in every game, in where this is how they should have been playing against Ursuline, is what I'm trying to say. They learned a lot from that game, and I don't think you see them do what they've done in recent weeks without that loss early in the year. They are playing with the chip on their shoulder. You will not find a team with more experience than the Brookfield Warriors. You will not find a more experienced coach in Randy Clark, and you will not find a more enthused fan base than in Brookfield. I mean, that town is going to be turning up tonight with Matt Morrison on the call. I know that crowd gets rowdy. I'm expecting Brookfield to be big, to be loud, and to come out with a win, not just in round 1, but round 2 over Dalton, round 3 over Kirtland. And then I won't say I'll take them over Valley Christian, but I think a regional championship is in set between Matt and I's 2 teams that we've covered here the last couple of years on your sports network. I like the Warriors now, and I like them down the line. They are a great team with a lot of potential and a lot of really, really great athletes. I mean, Isaiah Jones, 200 yards against Champion through receiving wise, just a phenomenal performance for him. Speaking of phenomenal, it doesn't get much better than back-to-back shutouts on the road and at home, and one of those came against a team that was fighting for second place in the conference. It's Southern. They do come out with second place. They're only lost by 9 points to the undefeated for the first time Valley Christian War Eagles, but Southern is not done. They now enter into Division 7 playoffs. And I don't know if there's any team more prepared outside of this group. I mean, they've played 2 really great games on the season that has gotten them here. The only downside, who else have they beaten? There's no one on their schedule outside of those 2 that you look at with a winning record. So there's definitely a problem to be addressed there. Lisbon is 5-5. However, this is a Southern team that they're focused on this game. But I guarantee you every member of this group has looked forward to the next round, because they earned the 4th spot over Norwalk St. Paul. They have had to travel to St. Paul the last 2 seasons. They have been eliminated by them both times. And now St. Paul has to come down to the Wigwam and play in Southern. Every guy on this team, I know the coaches, they were, when I was down in the huddle with everybody talking before the game against Valley Christian, that was their message. I mean, conference title was one thing. They wanted that. Sure, they wanted a perfect season too, but they wanted St. Paul to have to come into their stadium for the first time and try and beat them there. This team is very focused. They're going to pound South Central. It's not going to be close. This is going to be Southern football at its finest. Book it. 45-14 is my score for this game tonight. I think Southern is going to dog on them. They are going to send a message with St. Paul in their spotlight. Next one up, the Mogadore Field Falcons at 4-6 try to do the impossible and take down the 9-1 West Branch Warriors, who again have just one loss on the season, and it came to Canfield. First game of the year, August 19th. They haven't lost in over 2 months' time. Folks, it is not going to start here. This is a really, really good West Branch team, about as any as we have here in the region. I think if you played them in Canfield 10 times, you'd end up with a 5-5 split. The Shields is that guy. He's got that dog in him. It's going to come out to play today. They're going to win this one, and it's going to set up what is hopefully a great matchup against Struthers or Edgewood next week. Then you look for future for them. Canal Fulton Northwest, Woodridge, I would like them in that matchup. And then you have a likelihood of taking on an NE8 team, maybe Salem, maybe Beaver. West Branch is in a bracket that I feel very confident in an ability to get to a Final Four. States are very much in the picture for this talented team. They just need to stay focused, not allow a game like this to be a trap game where you're a 1 versus 16 seed and you go out there and you play like you probably should have been a 10 seed. So as long as they stay focused and their boys get it done, I mean, it's on to the next one for the West Branch Warriors. Next game up for us here, and it's the Leopards trying to, much like our last team we were talking about, do the impossible. Do something no one has done this season. Go into South Range and come out with your season intact, because South Range has sent everybody packing and it hasn't been close. No team has been within single digits of South Range all season long. The closest anybody came was Struthers over a month and a half ago on September 9th. They lost 23-13 against the Range that was in Canfield. So this is the South Range team clearly clicking on every single cylinder that counts. This is, if not the best team on the network so far. DJ Yoakley is going to be tooting the Raider horn all the way through this game and all the way as far as they will go. But here's the but. These Leopards, man, they have a whole new set of momentum here at the end of the season. And I think the one thing that would stop me from picking them is the Week 10 loss to Garfield, 56-27. They fell apart. Their momentum finally came to a close. And as much as I want to pick the Leopards, I really want to pick the Leopards to pull this upset. I just don't think that I can. South Range has been too perfect this season. Everything has gone exactly right. And if someone is going to beat this group, as much as I want it to be the Leopards, the likelihood is not very high. Edison might have a shot. Norwayne, I think, definitely has a shot. They're very physical, and I think that would help. Garaway, Perry, I don't even know. But I think this South Range team has shown they are the real deal. This is the best Range Raider squad that I've personally seen in the 3 years that I've covered this region. I know they were undefeated last year up until the Kirtland loss in the postseason. But I think you look at that season for them last year and you compare it to this one, and I think you'd be hard-pressed to say they haven't played better this year. And that's amazing to say with the amount of talent they had on last year's roster, that they could get any better. But I think they have. Liberty, if they are playing with a full squad, if they still had all the players that have transferred out, I think I give them a shot here. I still like to give them a shot behind Lawrence Watson at quarterback. I think he's done a great job flipping the momentum around for this team. And with Derek DiMattia also out there with this group, I mean, this is a squad I really, really like to see make a run. I wish they didn't have to play South Range here because I want to take the Leopards, but I'm going to have to go Raiders in this first round. It's the smart pick for a reason. I don't think anyone should try picking against South Range. It hasn't worked for us here on the network all season long when anybody's trying to pick against them. It's not a move that works too regularly. Next game up, Mineral Ridge taking on Canton Central Catholic. And I think this is a worrisome game. We don't look at too many games in this opening week that, you really kind of scratch your head and go, I don't really know, or I don't have a strong inclination. This is a game I look at, and I'm definitely wary. I mean, Mineral Ridge has the better record, but they are not the home team. They are the visitors. They, despite having 2 less losses than Canton Central Catholic, who just finished over 500 by a game, Mineral Ridge is the visiting team because we pointed it out all season. Strength of schedule. They had none. Outside of Springfield and Lowellville, their strength of schedule in total, negative 20.2 was their strength of schedule rating. This is a really great team. No one can deny how good this team is. I mean, their defense especially has been phenomenal this season, allowing just 123. Their offense has put up 339. But, and here's the but, in their biggest games against Springfield and Lowellville, they scored just 19 points and allowed 41. And I know it's 2 games, it's not really much to go off of, but those are the only 2 games. I mean, personally, when I look at Mineral Ridge's schedule that matter, those are the only 2 up until this one. And they didn't play well, and they lost. You look on the side of Canton Central Catholic. Well, their season may have been harder than just about anybody else's. Their strength of schedule rating finished at 5.9, one of the few teams we've talked about so far that has a positive strength of schedule rating. They lost to Massillon Perry. They beat Norwayne, Wayne, who's a top contender right now in the postseason. They lost to South Range by just 2 touchdowns. In fact, they were the second closest team to beating South Range this year. They beat Salem. They lost to Alliance. So there you look, first 5 teams on the schedule, all high-ranking playoff teams outside of Perry, who finished 4-6. They had some easy games. They went in. They dominated. They beat Lutheran East, Lake Catholic, East Liverpool. They lost to Massillon Jackson, who was a 5-5 football team that was fighting for their playoff lives, and they finished out beating Aquinas 49-12 to earn this top seed. I do like Canton Central Catholic coming into this game. I think that strength of schedule is a big factor for them. However, I'm not ready to bet against this Rams team. I think they got a little bit of magic left in that cap. I don't think it's going to be a very long run for them. They would have Mogador up next unless Southeast can pull off a monumental upset over the undefeated Cats over there. I don't think that's going to happen. And I don't particularly like Mineral Ridge going up against Mogador. That is not a matchup that I think favors them. But I think here against Canton Central Catholic, it's going to be close. It's going to come down to the wire. But ultimately, I'm betting on the Rams to take this game when it counts. I think that they have the talent to do so. I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt here in round 1. I hope it doesn't burn me. Next game, Lisbon. Pardon me, not Lisbon. I don't know what I'm doing here. One second. My computer decided to freeze, or maybe it was me. But next game, here it is. Don't know why we have a glitch in my schedule in front of me, but St. Paul and Lisbon going at one another here. I figured it out eventually. But Lisbon coming in here to this final week, I mean, it's 5-5. They just scratched into this postseason. It's not a game I think really anybody's looking at them to do a ton of damage. They lost their last 2 games of the season to United and Columbiana. Momentum is clear against them at this point in the year. I don't think this is going to be close. However, it sets up the matchup that I know a lot of fans want to see once more in Southern versus St. Paul in round 2. It's going to be a long drive for Lisbon here. Obviously going all the way up to Norwalk. I've made that drive myself, or pretty close to it. It's long. I mean, that's going to be a taxing drive. They're probably already on the road here at 2:35 to get out there and be there for the time of the game. If not, those buses are getting loaded and warmed right now because it's going to be a long ride. It's going to be a really long ride back tonight as the season comes to a close. Yeah, I'm not picking Lisbon here. I'm taking St. Paul. I want to see that matchup really just for the sake of Southern, because I know how badly they wanted that game. It was really the one talking point I had about them in that Valley Christian Southern game that was really the important one, because they wanted to get back here to the postseason. They wanted that high spot. They got that high spot, and they're going to have the matchup that they want in round 2. So now it's time for Southern to go out there and grab it, control their destiny. I don't think Lisbon pulls off what would be a massive upset. EOAC looked strong early in the year, but as the season went on, the schedule's balanced out, and I think we all saw that the EOAC has a long way to go to get up there with the likes of, the NE8 or even the MVAC, either side of it. Next game, Coventry out of Akron goes up against our 8-2 Beavers. The 8-2 Beavs have been on an 8-game winning streak since losses to Indian Valley and Salem to start out the year. They've pulled off some pretty impressive wins along the way, albeit, I like the schedule personally. They beat an undefeated team a week ago in Wheeling Central Catholic. They knocked off John Hay, who has now lost 2 straight games. They were a 1-loss team going into it. They dominated their games against Oak Glen, Harrison Central, and Indian Creek. They really dominated the last 5 games out of the year. They put up almost 50 in every game. They averaged, I think, around 55 throughout those last couple of games. And personally, for me, I look at this Beaver team, and I do have the tendency, I think, just chop off that first half of the schedule. I'm looking at the back half. That's the team I think that this group is now. They learned a lot from those first few opening games, and obviously there's some good ones in there that they'd like to remember and take pieces from. I thought the win over Lyndon McKinley at the time was a good one. McKinley's finished 3-6, but they've rebounded off those losses in dramatic fashion. They're well on their way for a postseason run. Coventry here in round 1, I don't think is going to give them all that many problems. Team that's lost their last 3 games out. In fact, they've lost 4 of their last 5. They have wins against Ravenna, Springfield, out of Akron, Springfield, not our new Middletown. They beat Middlefield's Cardinal. They beat Burton Berkshire, which was an impressive win for them. But it's not a team I'm overly excited to see here in the postseason as one that could make a run. Obviously, not the worst strength of schedule for them. It is just negative 0.7. So, they're definitely a good team that has had to go up against the gauntlet this season, and they've played close to some good groups. They held it to a 1-score game against an 8-2 Norton. Obviously, beating Ravenna was a nice win for them there to take down the Ravens, but I think you really have to look at losses recently for them. They lose to Cloverleaf 49-14. They lose to Streetsboro by 30 points. They lost to Mogador Field by 5, a team that we talked about a little bit early on. I don't see them putting close to what has been a heck of a run for the Beavers here in the back half of the season. I like Beaver Local to go on. Not sure how long I like them to go on for. I think they sit in a good spot with their seeding. But again, it's one of those matchups that I think it's a week-to-week basis for this group, because obviously I think they're good. But the road's not exactly easy. Either Canton South or Salem up on the schedule next. Then, you could have Girard, Hubbard, Jefferson, Poland. Any of those is going to be a challenging matchup. This is a week-to-week basis for this Beaver team, and I think that's the way, the postseason should be. There should be no guarantees, and I'm not confident to say this one is a guarantee, but I do like the Beavs to get it done here in round 1. Next up, it's not going to be on the network tonight, but it's going to be one of the best games to be looking at as Cardinal Mooney's defense tries to put an end to the offensive onslaught of Edison, the Wildcats, who have mounted 427 points on the season, allowing just 73. But Mooney, not so fast. They've allowed just 139 of their own. They've held it close to Ursuline and Steubenville in their last couple of weeks. In fact, the Steubenville 28-7 loss was their biggest loss of the season. As to that point, they had their biggest loss had only been 14 points to a 23-year-old Lindsley crew out of West Virginia. This is a talented Mooney roster, and I think we have seen that week to week. It is why they made the postseason. Being a 5-5 school is just a strength of schedule that ranks at 12.0. I mean, that it's one of the best strength of schedules out there. You will be hard pressed to find any better. And that is what's kept them alive. Actually, I should say they finished 4-6 and they made the postseason since they had to forfeit to East. They played an ineligible player in that game. It was a forfeit for them, a 37-0 forfeit in that game. So it's a team with a losing record here making the postseason. And now they have an opportunity to knock off an undefeated Edison, who, I mean, what more can we say about this team that hasn't already been said this year? It is a historic run for this crew. It's a season that I don't think anyone is going to soon forget with this group. They are having just a historic season. You know, you look back on it. They were 0-10 in 2019. And you see less than a 5-year turnaround. They go from 0-10 to 3-5 to 8-4 and now to 10-0. They are looking to go on another postseason run, and it's just their second postseason run in the last 10 years. So they don't have a ton of experience here. However, the crew they have now, this will be their second postseason run after they made it in, I believe it was last year. They did lose to Manchester out of Akron 50-0. But this is a talented team, and it's one that no one is going to second guess here. And I'm positive to think that coming up on Power Hour next, when they reveal a bunch of their picks, that everyone is going to take Edison in this game. I am going to ring the bell here. Say not so fast, my friends. I haven't pulled it out in a while. But I'm pulling it out here. That's my upset alert bell. I am going Cardinal Mooney to beat Edison in the first round in what would just end up being a massive, massive upset for this Edison team. And my only explanation I have is Mooney has been so close, but yet so far. And what it reminds me of is every other season that this team has over the last year, whether it was basketball or baseball. Every single game was close. They didn't really get blown out. They came in with an average record because they took on a strong strength of the schedule. And what did they do? Well, baseball, I think, lasted 3 rounds. Basketball, both boys and girls made it to district championships. Or they were at least playing in districts, I believe. I don't know if they both got the district championships. I know the boys did. Boys made it into regionals. They were in the Elite 8. And I look at this Mooney team, 4-6 record. They're gritty, and grit gets it done in the postseason. They have played the biggest of the bigs. They have gone toe-to-toe with giants, and they have just came up short. This time they will not. No one has been able to stop Edison's offense. They don't know what it's like to have to go out there in the fourth quarter and close out a game. Mooney, while they haven't been successful at it, they have been in that spot time and time again. No one has put a running clock on Mooney this season. It's not starting here, and that is the only way that Edison has won outside of Week 10 against Indian Creek out of Wintersville, who went 1-9, lost their last 8 games of the season. They won that 28-7. They called off the Dogs early. I think 10-0 becomes 10-1. Give me the Mooney Cardinals, man. Postseason Giants. You never count out Cardinal Mooney when it gets serious. They're too strong of a program historically, and they have too good of a defense this year for people to count this squad out. I like them. We'll see what happens. Moving on. I think this is another great game we got right after it. United and Rootstown. I mean, I look at this matchup as one of the best ones we have going on the network. You look at United, and I know a lot of gimme victories on there. I mean, all 8 victories are against losing teams, I believe, teams without winning records. I don't think they have a win against an opponent with a winning record. You look over at Rootstown, and, they beat Crestwood opening part of the year, 4-6 crew. They beat Champion, they beat Field, they beat PV. So, I mean, right there, a bunch of 4-6 teams. They lose to Conneaut, winning record. They beat Aquinas, losing record. They lose to JFK, winning record. They lose to they beat Grand Valley, losing record. They beat Southeast, losing record. They play another team with a winning record, and they lose. It was Mogador. So granted, the hardest games on their schedule were probably the hardest of any three in Conneaut, JFK, and Mogador. I mean, you talk about postseason powerhouses. Rootstown had to see them all this year. And so I think we kind of look at this matchup from both sides' perspective as, hey, this game is no guarantee for either team. This is going to be tough as nails, 8 versus 9. This is the kind of game that you're going to want to watch all night long. And when audible calls coming down and they're closing down shop at the end of the night, this game still might be going on because it's going to be just physical, rough, and tough football. I'm expecting a close game. I'm not certain who I'm going to have come out of this game because I think it has just been brutal seasons for both teams to try and get to this point. And, you know, I say that mainly because of their hardest games. I know United hasn't played anybody outside of Valley Christian and Southern, but they played well-ish against those teams. And Rootstown in their hardest games played bad. They lost by 20 to Mogador. They lost by 33 to JFK. They got shut out to JFK. And they lost by, 19 points to Conneaut. Our United, when they've lost better. And both of those games were on the road. Rootstown also suffered on the road. Neither one of these teams have had great success on the road. They're both undefeated when playing at home. United has home field advantage. So for that, I'm going with the Hanoverton United Golden Eagles. I like them here in this game. They've had a strong defense, a strong offense. I'm looking for them to put it together one more time before whoever wins this game. It really doesn't matter because neither one of these two is beating Kirtland next week. It's just not going to happen. So whoever wins, congratulations on going 1-1 in the postseason this year. You're not touching Kirtland. It ain't going to happen. But with that being said, I got one more game to talk about here on day 2 of our high school football extravaganza playoff edition as the 8-2 Matthews Mustangs take on the Springfield Tigers in one of the biggest turnarounds of the season. From 0-4 to 6-0, Springfield did a complete 180 of their season. Through the first 4 weeks of the year, they hadn't scored over 24 points. Since then, they've only scored under 24 points twice, in a win over Mineral Ridge to upset their great season, and in a 21-0 defensive shutout against Western Reserve. Outside of that, 37 to McDonald, 41 to the Lou, 33 over Jacksonville, and 55 points a week ago. The Tigers are ticking, and they are looking to roar forwards in this postseason. Matthews, on the other hand, just dominance all season long has been personified. Their losses are Edison and PV, and the PV one leaves you scratching your head from a week ago. How did PV pull that off? 24-14, just the second team to smother this offense all season long. The other one, actually, I'll say just the third team to smother this offense all season long, as the other ones were Madonna out of Weirton, West Virginia, and Edison. All three teams held them to just 2 scores in their respective games. The Mustangs, one thing we know, has an absolutely lethal offensive attack, and they're pretty good on the defensive side to go along with it. But these Tigers, in those last 6 games of the year that they have won, they ain't played too bad. They've allowed just 7 points over the last 3 weeks, make it 21 over the last 4, and it has been one heck of a finish for these guys that defensively were allowing over 30 points a game to start out the year, have turned that and trimmed that down dramatically. Their defense now just allowing 18.7 points per game. So a huge flip to drop that by 12 after 4 games throughout the season. These Tigers, they are ready to go. I don't know if I've seen many other teams this amped up, ready for the postseason. Then, how this team has just sprinted directly into it, showing no remorse. They knew they needed to win these big games and win these games big at the end of the year. They knew the odds were not in their favor to get to this postseason, but they have crawled back, and they somehow earned themselves home field advantage. So great job. New Middletown is going to be popping tonight. That is going to be just an electric atmosphere, and I haven't seen them since week 2 of the season. But in that game against Brookfield, there was a lot of hope. And I don't know, if you played that game now, it might be a lot closer than it was then. I mean, it was only 27-14 then, so obviously not even that bad. But this is a program in Springfield that people were saying the end of the dynasty, they're done. Everyone graduated. Hell, I was one of them. I said that there was no shot they went anywhere this year. I am shocked of how they turned this season around. I'm so glad that they did, though. I want to see what this team can do. I will take them over the Matthews Mustangs. I don't know. They got JFK would be on the schedule next. If JFK gets past Fairport Harbor, yeah, they're going to win that. So they would have JFK coming up next. I like the Tigers to get this thing done. It's going to be exciting. If you want to hear more from me tonight on high school football playoffs, you can catch me down in Boardman as I'm covering the Valley Christian War Eagles playing against the Trinity Trojans. Should be an interesting game. I'm excited for it. We're going to have mediocrely bad weather. So, I hope you're all ready, going bundled up, or you watch from the comfort of your own home. But, folks, it has been a tremendous ride here in the postseason. For all of our teams that go down tonight and your season comes to a close, congratulations to making it to the 2022 postseason. It's always one heck of an accomplishment. I wish you the best of luck as you move into the offseason. For the teams that come out tonight, let's go. One more game. It's always just one more game. Get to the next one. We're going to have amazing broadcast all over the place. Like I said, I think we got 30 some odd games going across the region. We're sending Noah Rinks out to Dalton. Rick Daly's going to be up in Norwalk. Jake Skylack's out there in Canton. They're sending Matt Mowry and Niederhauser down to Canton South. So we got guys all over the place. I think we're going to have 4-4-0 in goal on the Garfield Conneaut game. And the only ones that we don't know are on the network tonight, Wyndham at Danville, Lakeside at Riverside, Mooney at Edison. If you're not one of those 3 teams, your game will be on the network tonight, so don't miss out. If you can't go to the game, watch it here on the network. We have a lot of teams going for some once-in-a-lifetime type runs. This is not the time to miss out on your favorite team because their season might come to a close, and it's going to be a great run. Hopefully for all of our teams. I'm very excited to be a part of it this year. 24 games tonight. Obviously, that number gets trimmed down more and more every week. So you got to watch it while you still can. Season's not going to last forever. But with that being said, got to wrap out our show. Do a little bit of housework here to finish out the week. So I'm going to go ahead and say my highlight of the week, I would say it has to go to playoff football because it's really reinvigorated my enthusiasm in this season. We got down into weeks 9 and 10, and we saw quite a few games that were not all that interesting. And we're back here. It's week 10, and I'm so pumped. I'm so ready to go. And I've been working on my computer all morning, getting 10,000 items to talk about on my broadcast later tonight. So that's my highlight of the week. It's playoff time, baby. It doesn't get any better. Late October football. It's cold outside. You're bundled up. You're freezing. You wish you could be at home. Well, now you can. You can watch it on the network. So if you don't want to go out and embrace the cold, embrace the network. And with that being said, one final order of business before we wrap up the show. Send it off to YSN's Power Hour Super Show. This week's Meathead of the Week. Now I'm going to hand it out to a man this region knows fairly well, Andre Drummond. After this last week, went up and he airballed a dunk. Had perfect lob right to him, but he went to go slam it down, and he slammed it down about 2-3 feet short of the rim. For a 7-footer, you think maybe it'd be a little easier to dunk the football, or not football, dunk the basketball. Maybe I'm the meathead, but dunk the basketball. But either way, meathead of the week, Andre Drummond. But that's going to do it for myself here on the Casual Sports Podcast. From Mike, Wolfgang and Matt Morrison as well. We wish you the best of luck tonight in all of your games. Hope everyone can get to and from the games tonight as well, safe and healthy. So without any more further ado, we send this off to YSN's Power Hour up next on your sports network. This has been the Casual Sports Podcast, high school football playoff extravaganza today special. I'll be back Monday to break down every single playoff game on the network.